Have you ever watched someone do something that seems completely backwards to you, but somehow it works perfectly for them? That's what happens when most people try to figure out Sigma males. These guys operate in ways that go against everything we're taught about how things should work. While everyone else is moving in one direction, Sigma males are heading the opposite way and somehow ending up in a better place. They make choices that look like mistakes from the outside, but produce results that many wish they could achieve. The weird part is they're not doing it on purpose. This is just how their minds work. Their backwards approach actually works better than what most people are doing. They end up getting what they want while everyone else is still struggling with the same problems. But their methods are so different from normal thinking that people assume they're doing everything wrong. What they don't realize is that Sigma males have figured out something most people never will, that the obvious path isn't always the right path. Sometimes doing the opposite of what everyone expects is exactly what gets you where you want to go. Here are 8 Sigma traits that make absolutely no sense to regular people, but work like magic for those who understand them. 1. Caring deeply, but showing almost nothing. This one really messes with people. Imagine watching someone who seems cold, detached, maybe even uninterested, only to find out later that they noticed every little detail, that they actually cared more than anyone else in the room. That's the Sigma puzzle. They can feel deeply, sometimes more than they're comfortable admitting, but you won't see it spilling out on their face or through constant validation seeking. And here's where the tension builds. People misinterpret it. They think, if you cared, you'd show it, you'd gush about it, you'd at least let us see some proof. But for them, proof isn't in the performance. It's in the quiet actions they take when nobody's watching. They'll show up for people in subtle but powerful ways. They'll remember things others forget. They'll go out of their way to protect or help, but they won't plaster their emotions on display for everyone to analyze. To outsiders, this looks almost contradictory. How can someone who seems so indifferent actually care that much? It's unsettling because it challenges the assumption that caring and showing must always go together. And that's why most people miss it. They're busy measuring affection by volume, while Sigma males measure it by depth. 2. Trusting their gut over any expert's advice. Most people feel safe when they lean on the advice of professionals. If a doctor, a professor, or some big-shot guru says, "This is how you do it," we nod and follow along because that's what we're trained to believe is smart. But here's where Sigma males throw everyone off. They'll listen politely, sure, but when it comes down to making a choice, they'll put more weight on that quiet inner nudge than on someone else's credentials. To the outside world, this can look careless, even arrogant. How dare someone think they know better than the experts? But in their world, it's not about disrespect. It's about trust, not in systems or shiny titles, but in their ability to connect dots other people miss. And often, it pays off. They'll go left when everyone else is yelling right, and later people wonder how they saw it coming. Does it backfire sometimes? Of course. They're human, not clairvoyant. But the real point is that they're not afraid of being wrong in public if it means staying true to themselves. Most people can't stomach that kind of risk, and that's why this trait makes zero sense to those watching from the sidelines. 3. They are too easily irritated. Here's the one that humanizes them the most, and maybe that's why people struggle with it. For all their quirks and paradoxes, Sigma's males aren't saints. They get annoyed, sometimes quicker than you'd expect. Small talk that drags on, people not respecting boundaries, environments that feel chaotic or fake. These things hit them harder than most. To the outside world, it looks like impatience, maybe even arrogance. What's their problem? Why can't they just deal with it like everyone else? But irritation isn't about superiority. It's about sensitivity. Sigma males often notice details others overlook, and those details can grate on them over time. Think of it like background noise. Most people tune it out, but for them, it's a constant hum they can't ignore. And when that hum gets loud enough, they snap. Not in a dramatic explosion, but in subtle ways, withdrawing, cutting the conversation short, or letting out a sharp comment. It makes no sense to others because they don't see what triggered it. But that's the truth. Irritation doesn't always announce itself with a neon sign. Sometimes it's just the invisible weight of noticing too much. 4. Exploding inside, but looking calm outside. This trait is pure tension. Imagine someone who's furious, heart racing, thoughts spinning, but on the outside, nothing. Calm face, steady voice, almost unreadable. That's how Sigmas often process intense emotions. From the outside, it makes no sense. How can someone be boiling inside without showing even a crack? For most people, emotions leak out whether they like it or not. But these guys seem wired differently. They can contain the storm until they decide how to release it. And that's what confuses others: the delay. They may explode later in private or channel it into action instead of expression. This doesn't mean they're emotionless robots. If anything, it's the opposite. Sometimes they feel things too strongly, which is why they lock it down in the moment. It's self-preservation, not indifference. But to outsiders, it reads like dishonesty or suppression. If you're angry, show it. If you're upset, say it. That's the rule most people follow. Sigma males break it, and in doing so, they show that emotions don't have to control behavior. It's not always healthy, and it's not always easy, but it's their way of keeping chaos in check until they decide the timing is right. 5. Winning arguments by saying less, not more. In most arguments, people raise their voices, pile on more evidence, and swing their words like weapons. The louder and more forceful you are, the more convincing you'll be. Right? Wrong. Sigma males flip that script completely. Instead of throwing more logs on the fire, they'll step back, say almost nothing, and let silence work its magic. At first, this seems like surrender, like they've got nothing left. But that's the trap. Because while the other person is busy tripping over their own words, the Sigma is quietly dismantling the situation. He knows that sometimes saying less draws more power. It forces the other side to fill in the gaps, often exposing their own weaknesses. It's a strategy that feels unnerving to witness. Imagine arguing with someone who won't fight you in the way you expect. They don't bite at the bait. They don't lose their cool. They just wait. And then, with one carefully chosen line, they turn the whole thing around. Does it always work? No. But when it does, it's brutal, because the other person realizes they've been shadowboxing the entire time. And that's why this style of winning makes no sense to people trained to equate volume with victory. 6. They may abruptly leave a situation. This is the trait that leaves everyone scratching their heads. Picture a group hanging out, everything seems fine, and suddenly the Sigma just leaves. No big announcement, no long excuse, no drawn-out goodbye. They're there 1 minute and gone the next. To most people, that's weird or even rude. We're taught to stick it out, to explain ourselves, to follow social scripts even when we're uncomfortable. But for Sigmas, the logic is simple. If the energy is off, if the conversation is going nowhere, or if they've already gotten what they needed from the situation, why stay? To them, lingering out of obligation makes no sense. To everyone else, walking away so abruptly makes even less sense. The tension here is that it breaks an unspoken rule, that we must always consider how our presence or absence makes others feel. But Sigma males operate on a different timeline. If they sense it's time to go, they go. Not to prove anything, not to be dramatic, but because they're unwilling to waste their most precious resource, their attention. And that's why it unsettles people. We cling, We stall, we perform. They exit. Clean, simple, and completely confusing. 7. Laughing at things nobody else finds funny. If you've ever seen someone laugh at the wrong moment, you know how uncomfortable it can feel. That's often what happens with Sigma males. They'll crack a smile or laugh when everyone else is silent, staring, wondering what the joke is. The funny thing is, there actually is a joke there, but it's hidden in the layers they've noticed while others are focused on the surface. Sigma males have this way of connecting dots in odd places, so what seems like a random laugh is actually them catching something others missed. From the outside, though, it feels bizarre, almost like they're laughing at people, not with them. That misunderstanding creates friction. People assume they're mocking or being inappropriate, but in reality, it's usually about perspective. They see irony where others see seriousness. They find humor in contradictions others ignore. Is it confusing? Absolutely. But that's also why it works for them. While most people drown in the heaviness of the moment, they lighten it by spotting the hidden absurdity. Does it always land well socially? No. But the fact that they can find laughter in places most people can't says something unsettling. Maybe we're all missing a layer of reality. 8. They don't smile often. This one seems small, but it throws people off more than you'd expect. Most of us are trained to plaster a smile to appear friendly, agreeable, and non-threatening. We do it in conversations at work, even when we don't feel like it. Sigma males, though, rarely bother with that mask. If they're not genuinely feeling it, the smile won't show. To outsiders, this can look cold, intimidating, or even hostile. People think, what's wrong with them? Why are they so serious all the time? But that's the thing. Nothing is wrong. They just don't see the point in smiling for social points. They'd rather let their face match their real mood, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Ironically, when they do smile, it lands harder. People notice, because it's rare, because it feels earned. That's why it confuses so many. In a world addicted to constant friendliness, choosing not to fake it feels rebellious. They don't hate smiling. They just reserve it for moments that actually deserve it. And that decision alone separates them from the majority, who can't imagine facing the world without a grin as their armor.